Okay, everyone, let's go ahead and get started on this assignment. Start with number 59. And for each pair of triangles below, determine if the triangles are congruent. If the triangles are congruent, make a flowchart that justifies your conclusion. Make sure your flowchart states the triangle congruence condition that justifies your conclusion. If you cannot conclude that the triangles are congruent, explain why not. Okay? So first, before you do anything, you need to just take a glance at the picture and study it a little bit and find out what is congruent and what is not. Right? So on A, right, they give you this angle, and this angle is congruent. So we have an angle. They give you this side, and they give you this side is congruent. So far we have angle and we have side, or we have side and we have angle. Right? So what else do we have? We don't have anything else. They don't tell you anything else. So that's all that's given. Okay, now to get anything else, you have to come up with it yourself, or you just kind of give up and say, hey, there's nothing else that's going to be congruent. Okay, so looking at it a little closely, you can see that, you know what, we have these angles right here, the one I'm putting in blue, and they are congruent. Right? Those are going to be vertical angles, and that one is not given. That you have to come up with yourself. So by looking at that, let's look at the top triangle. The top triangle, we have a red angle, a green side, and a blue angle. So that's a side, or excuse me, that's an angle, side angle. And if you look at the bottom triangle, you have the same thing: red angle, green side, and blue angles. We have angle, side angle, which means they both match, and now they are congruent. Okay, so since they're both congruent, uh, we can go ahead and utilize this congruent statement. Triangle CAB. So if you follow this, right? Let me see. So let's see. Let's look at the order, right? So we have triangle C. So it starts in the center, and then A, which is at the angle they gave you, and then B, which has no angle, right? So that's your triangle that they're talking about, CAB, right? And it starts at the center and then goes to the angle they give you, and then ends up at no angle. So then if we want to kind of match it up, then we have to start at the center. So we have to call this other triangle C, and then we have to go to the angle they give you, E, and then we have to go to where no angle is, so D. So we're talking about that triangle, C, E, D, and those are two congruent triangles. Right? And since they're congruent, we have to make a flow chart. So our flow chart starts with three ovals. Okay, let's write down the stuff that we know. We know angle A, and we can call it angle A because that's the only angle there. So we know that angle A is congruent to angle E. Okay, and we know that because it's given to us. Right? If you look at the picture, it's already has an angle marking with one slash through it. So that means that they're both, one slash means that they're both equal. So this is going to be given. Right? So far we know that. What else do we know? We know that the side AC, that's a line, is congruent to side. And because we started with A and we went inside the C, then we're going to practice that. We're going to go with E and then go inside the C. So EC. Okay, and you can say CE if you like, but we're going to go ahead and practice the same order. So I'm going to say AC is congruent to EC. Okay, and we know this because it's, again, you see how it has one slash through each of those? So that's given. Okay, and we also came up with the fact that angle, and I'm going to put this in blue. We also came up with the fact that this angle right here is congruent with the same measure as that angle right there. Right, now that one no one told us, but we're gonna have to go ahead and give it a name. Right, and the reason for that is, and we talked about this, but the reason for that is because it's a vertical angle. Okay, now we got to name it. Right, so each of those blue angles, you can call it C, but you know, what does angle C really mean? Right, because there's a bunch of angles at angle C. Right, angle C could mean this right here. right? So you just call it angle C, it can mean this right here. And that's definitely not what we want, right? Or it can mean this right here. And that is what we want, but we want the other one also. We can't call them both angle C because that if that's angle C, then what's this right here, right? Because that's could also be angle C. Or we could also have this right here. That could be angle C. So you can't just say it's angle C, right? So you have to give it a 3-letter name. So for the top one, I'm going to go ahead and call it ECD, meaning if I trace that out, it makes this angle right here. So it'll be angle ECD. Right? And that's going to be congruent to angle. And then I'm going to trace out the bottom. Okay. And because I started with E, the one angle, the one mark, I'm going to go ahead and start with A. So it'd be angle ACB. And that would be your vertical angle. So angle ACB. And we know that's because they're vertical angles. Okay. And because we have that, right? And if you just, pay attention to just one of the triangles, we have that angle right there. We have that side in between. And we have that angle right here. So if you look at just the drawing, it's an angle with a side in the middle and then another angle. So then that's how we know that the reason why these are congruent is by angle, a side in the middle, and an angle congruence. Right? And then all we have to do is just write the triangle congruence statement. You can name it however you want, but at the beginning right here, they already have it for you. So you just copy it down. Triangle CAB is congruent to triangle CED. Okay. Okay, let's look at the second one. Let's see. It looks like we have an angle here. And then we have an angle, 90-degree angle, but it's still an angle, and then a side. So we have angle, angle, side. And if we look here, we have an angle, angle, and then side. So it looks like these are going to be congruent. All right, so we can say, yes, these are congruent. Okay, so how do they name this? Let's look at the naming convention. They label it as CBD. So if you follow this, C, which has no angle, B, which is a 90, and then D. Right, so in that order, and that's talking about that triangle. So C, no angle, B, 90, and then D. So if I want to match that up, I have to call this E, which has no angle, F, which has a 90, and then G, which has the one angle. So E, F, G. So I'm going to say that triangle CBD is congruent to triangle E, F, G. And whenever we get this done, it's going to be, and if you follow the lettering, right, or you follow what they have an angle, a side, and then you have another angle, not a side, and then you finally have a side at the end of those two angles, right? This side is not in between. Okay, it's at the end, so it's an angle, angle, side. And you look at this other triangle, it's angle, angle, and then a side at the end. Okay, the side is not in between. Okay, so angle, angle, side. Angle, side, angle will look like it's in between like this. Okay, but this is angle, angle, side. So we know this is also congruent. I'm going to erase that first one. And we're going to go ahead and do a congruence or a flow chart for this. Okay, so we're going to need 3 ovals. All right, and I forgot the arrows earlier. All right, you can put your arrows on. All right, so you're going to go ahead and write down the things that you know that's given to you. And actually on this one, they're all given to you. You don't have to assume anything, or you don't have to come up with any rationale. All right, so we know angle G and angle D are congruent, so we just write down angle G. And there's only one angle G, so that's why we can get away with just calling it angle G. And we don't have to use a 3-letter name. Angle G is congruent to angle D, and we know this because they're both 1 mark. And who put the mark? Who put the 1 mark there? Somebody did, but not us. Right? That's why we can say this is given, because when we first look at this picture, it already has the 1 mark. Right. The next one, we have angle F, which is 90 degrees, so we can call it angle F. That's all we need. It's congruent to angle, and then on for this other triangle, it's gonna be angle B. Right. Again, how do we know they're congruent? Right. Who put the mark there for us? Well, it was already there, so we're gonna say it's given. Okay. And then we're gonna go ahead and write down the sides, or name the sides that are congruent. So we're going to call this one side FE, and we're going to start with a 90-degree angle and the E, which is at the no angle. So we're going to say side FE, and put a little line over it to represent side, is congruent to side, and you can call it CB, but because we started at the 90-degree angle with F, and then we went to E, which is nothing, right? So FE, so 90 degrees to nothing. We're going to go ahead and try to follow that format. So it's going to be B to C. All right, so BC. So FE is congruent to BC. Okay, and you want to practice matching the formatting. Okay, the same way, the same direction. And how do we know this? How do we know that those are both congruent? They both have 1 mark. And again, who put it there? Well, whoever the author is, right? And this is already given because we didn't figure it out ourselves. It was already there. So now we can go ahead and write down our triangle congruence, which is just copy down the main heading. So this is triangle CBD congruent to triangle EFG. And how do we know this? We talked about this, but we got an angle, and we got a side. Okay, same thing here, angle, and we get a side. So this is by AAS congruence. Okay, so that's A and B. Let's look at C. C, we have an angle that's 1 and an angle that's 1. So far, matching. And then it looks like we have a side in between. And we have a side right here. And this is where it fails. We have an angle at the end of the in between. And we have an angle that's not. See, if it's in between, it needs to be right here. But it's not. It actually ends up being over here. So this one is not congruent. So we can just say, and you can name it however you want. So this one, the naming convention is LJI. So LJI, and you can just call it however you want because they're not congruent. So I'm going to go ahead and give it any 3-letter word for this triangle. So I'm going to just go ahead and call it HMK. HMK. You can do it however you want because they're not congruent, so you don't have to actually follow anybody's lead on this one. Okay? Because they're not congruent. So we want to just write down that triangle LJI is not, so just cross out that congruent symbol, is not congruent to triangle HMK. That's all you got to do. Or you can write down not congruent. Okay. If you want to explain it, you can say that this angle H needs to be the same measurement as angle M, and then that would actually work it out. Okay, but it's not. All right, and then the last one, let's see. It looks like we have angle, which is an angle here also. We have a angle here, which matches another angle here. And then they also give us this vertical angle, which we could have figured out without them giving it to us. But we got all 3 angles, okay? And angle is not a congruence, okay? So we just say it's not congruent as well, okay? You can just write down not congruent. You would need one of the sides in between, or you would just say it's not congruent, and just write a statement for that. So I'll just write a statement. I'll just call this triangle PRQ. So that's PRQ. Right? And then I'm just going to go ahead and just write it any way I want because it's not congruent. So I'll just call it some weird name like TSR. Right? So triangle PRQ is not congruent to triangle TSR. And that's all you got to do. Okay. Or you can write down not congruent. All right. Let's look at the back side. All right, so this one, so these are actually pretty advanced, right? You can solve this however you want. I'm actually gonna rewrite that first equation, right? I'm gonna try to do this with elimination method. See how the y is in front and the x is in the towards the back or the middle? Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and write it in the correct order. So I'm gonna write the x in the front, so 3x, and that y is positive, so plus y equals negative 10. And then now if I write the bottom equation down, 5x minus y equals 2, you can see that these are going to be able to cancel out. And when I add it, I will get 8x equals negative 10 plus 2 is positive 8. You would divide it by 8, both sides. Oops, it's not positive 8, it's negative 8, by the way. Negative 10 and positive 2 makes negative 8. Okay, dividing by 8 both sides allows you to solve for x is going to be 8. Excuse me, negative 8 divided by 8 is negative 1. So x equals 1 is your part of your answer. So x is negative 1. Excuse me, I said 1 again. Right, now if x is negative 1, then you need to just plug it in and figure out what y is. Right, so you can use any equation you want. I'm going to go ahead and use the bottom equation. Right, so if x is negative 1, so if I actually put negative 1 in the x, so 5 times negative 1 makes negative 5. So you get negative 5. Can't see what that is. Minus, right? So negative 5 minus y equals 2. Okay, what I'm going to do here is I'm actually going to do two moves at once. I'm going to go ahead and add the y to the other side. And the y becomes positive. But I'm also going to be subtracting 2 to the other side. Right, because these go away, so I will have minus 2. Sorry, that should be minus 2. Right, so now I will end up with, and again, these also go away. So I will end up with y on the left-hand side, right-hand side, and then negative 5 minus 2 is negative 7 on the left-hand side. So my answer is y equals negative 7, x equals negative 1. So y is negative 7. Okay, that's your answer. All right, this next one right here, I think I'm going to go ahead and do the same method, but this time around, I'm actually going to fix this. Notice how x is in the front, and then the y is all the way on the right-hand side. So I'm going to go ahead and bring this back over by doing the opposite, which is adding 2y. Okay, so my new equation is going to be 6x, and then if I add 2y, I'll get positive 2y, and that's going to equal 7, because 7 will be left over. Okay, the bottom equation is okay, so I'm just going to go ahead and copy that bottom equation. 4x plus y equals 4. Okay, now I'm going to try to combine these. So it looks like if I can probably get rid of the y's if I get a negative 2 right here. Right, if I can get a negative 2y. So what I'm going to do is multiply that bottom equation by negative 2. So I'm going to multiply it by negative 2. Okay, I usually put it in the front, but since I don't have room in the front, I'll put it in the back just to show you. Right, so my new equation, the top one's going to stay the same. So I'm going to write down 6x plus 2y equals 7. So I'm leaving that alone. Bottom equation is going to be multiplied by negative 2. So I will have 4 times negative 2 is going to be negative 8x. Negative 2 times positive y is a negative 2y equals, and negative 2 times 4 is a negative 8. And when I do this, I can now go ahead and cross these y's out and eliminate the y's. Positive 6x and negative 8x is going to be negative 2x. And this will give you 7 minus 8 is negative 1. Divide both sides by negative 2. And you will end up with x equals negative 1 divided by negative 2 is just 1/2. You can call it zero point 0.5 if you like, right? But so far, my x value is 1/2. Okay, I'm still looking for my y value. So I'm going to go ahead and put x where the x belongs. Right, and then I'm going to try to solve for the y. So I'm going to go ahead and take this bottom equation, right, and I'm going to put the 1/2 where the x is. Right, so the x is going to be 1/2. So 4 times 1/2. Right, so half of 4 is going to give me 2 plus y equals 4. Right, now just solve for y by subtracting 2, and you have your answer. So y is equal to 4 minus 2, which is just 2. So my other answer, second part of my answer is 2 for the y. So my y is going to be 2. So my coordinate is 1/2 comma 2. All right, last one. Elliot's dad bought a new car for 31,000. Okay, so new car, so brand new. So let's see. Elliot reads that new car loses about 13 of its value each year. What is the multiplier for this situation? Okay, so basically, if you think about it, 31,000, right? And if you lose 13%, you can multiply it by 0.13. That's 13%, right? So if you multiply 31,000 by 13%, and I'll just do a calculator on the side here. So 31,000 multiplied by 0.13, and that gets you $4,030, right? So it doesn't mean that brand new a car is worth 31,000, and after a year it's now worth 4,000. Okay, that's not what it means. It means that it loses $4,030 in 1 year. So if we start off with 31,000, so 31,000 brand new, year zero, right? Year one, it's gonna lose $4,030. So 31,000. I'm gonna do this on the calculator on the side, so you can do it yourself just to check 31,000. Take away 4,000 or $4,030, and so year two, or excuse me, year one, the car is now worth $26,970, and you can just keep doing that. So this one you're gonna multiply by 13%. So you just keep doing that for year two, for year three, and so forth. But this question isn't actually asking about that. It's just asking what's the multiplier, right? And now in this case, because we're taking a loss, it's losing, it's depreciating in value. Um, we're multiplying it by 0.13. But what we have to do is take that 31,000 and then subtract the result, $4,030, and that's actually two-step, right? And that's not the multiplier. So what can we do instead of multiplying it by 13% and then subtracting it from the original amount? Well, you can think of it as, instead of losing 13 cents, you can think of it as that you actually still have 87 cents, right? Or 87%. So you can multiply this by 0.87 instead. Right? So you take 31,000 and multiply by 0.87. Do it on your calculator. You can pause this while you're doing it. So 31,000 times 0.87, guess what you get? You get 26,970, right? So instead of thinking about losing, right, losing 13%, you could think about as you keeping, right, you keeping 87%, right? Meaning that out of 31,000, if you keep 87%, you actually keep, or the car is actually 26,970. So your multiplier in this case, your multiplier is 0.87. Okay. All right. I think that's the last one. This is